Arizona, Michigan, today. Very important day for primary voters. And Rick Santorum is on the phone with us now. What state are you in, Rick?
Well, I just left Michigan this morning. I did some diner stops in the Grand Rapids area, and now I'm down here outside of Toledo doing a stop in Ohio and looking forward to Super Tuesday, and I'll be back tonight in Michigan.
Okay. What are you hoping for in Michigan? I know that's a stupid question because I know what you're going to say. Hey, anything is going to be. So forget that question.
Yeah.
If you win tonight, what does that say about Mitt Romney's campaign?
Well, then we have won again in another key Midwest swing state, another area where, in this case, Governor Romney has every possible home field advantage. Outspent us, has been organizing here for 4 years, has all of the the elites in the Republican Party lined up behind him, and we went in here with a message of growth and opportunity and a vision that says we need to have free people and free markets, and we have to have manufacturing jobs and lower energy prices. So we basically painted a vision for where we're going to take this country, and particularly the manufacturing sector here in Michigan, and it's resonating with people here. Our message of economic freedom and against Obamacare and its predecessor Romneycare. That was we're getting all sorts of very positive vibes that Romney is unfortunately in this election just uniquely disqualified and taking on one of the most important issues of the day.
Newt Gingrich may have actually come out and helped you this week in Michigan. I'm not sure. But I'd like to hear your response on how he says you're a big labor guy.
Well, this is very interesting. My AFL-CIO voting record in the years that I was in the Congress, representing two heavily labor Democratic districts when I was in Pittsburgh, and a state which is not a right-to-work state, which is a heavily union state, my voting record on labor issues was 13% in my career. Newt's was 9%. And he represented one of the most conservative districts, suburban Republican districts, in a right-to-work state. So, I mean, we have basically no difference between our two voting records. And I represented and stood up to labor, which he didn't even have to even contend with in his political life. I can tell you that when the AFL-CIO spent $2 to $3 million against me in my last race, and they made me public enemy number one, I don't think anybody in the labor movement would say Rick Santorum is a big labor guy.
How are you dealing with the mindset, for instance, in Detroit, that the government should bail people out, that the labor unions deserve this bailout, that things are... I mean, does anybody still there believe that things are going to get better because of all of this?
Oh, well, and certainly in Detroit, I mean, I've faced that question because I oppose the bailouts. The difference, and they believe that the bailouts were the greatest thing for Southeast Michigan. And I've just said that I don't believe that. I think that bailouts are bad. I come from southwestern Pennsylvania where there was no bailout of the steel industry when it went down in many cases in flames. So a lot of companies that were as big names in American history as General Motors went down and are no longer on the American scene. And you know what? We bounced back, and it took a while, and it was painful. But the auto industry in 3 years ago was in much better shape than the steel industry was. Steel industry had not invested, had not done the work that I mean, it deserved in many respects what happened because of the labor management. In the case of the auto industry, it had actually gotten its act together, but it was saddled with these huge legacy costs that the labor unions and management had agreed to years ago, and they had to get out from under those costs that they could no longer bear. But the production facilities themselves, the workers, et cetera, were in fact productive and were in fact competitive, as we've now seen once they've been shed of these legacy costs. And that would have been the opportunity for, yes, a different auto industry, but there's no question the auto industry would have bounced back. The question is who was going to be the holder of the industry, if you will, whether it was to be the folks under bankruptcy that under the rule of law they should have, or whether it was going to be the politicians, the government, and the labor unions.
Well, that's the thing. Obama's kind of controlled this discussion by saying that the GOP candidates we're all about letting letting GM and Chrysler go under, and that would have meant the loss of 4 million jobs or whatever. Nobody wanted it to go under.
Ridiculous.
They just wanted it to go on their own and declare bankruptcy and reorganize.
Well, reorganize. And, look, Chrysler is already, basically owned by Fiat. It's not like other that these institutions now are not fundamentally changed, and they would have been even more changed, clearly. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And what I've said is the differentiator with me to the people of Michigan is that I was opposed to all the bailouts, the Wall Street bailout and Detroit, where Governor Romney was for the Wall Street bailout and then decided to be against the bailout of Detroit. And I think that's where I think a lot of folks are sort of scratching their heads saying, well, why were you for your friends on Wall Street and not for the folks here in Detroit?
So help me out, though, with the difference between the steel workers and the steel industry, because you say, and look, everything worked out fine. Well, not really, because we don't have a steel industry at all in America anymore, and we need a steel industry.
Well, actually, if you look at steel production, yes, it's down, but steel industry is a very different industry. I mean, there's still some major steel corporations, but there's a lot of mills all over the country now, and there's production is down. I agree with that, but I'm talking about with respect to Pittsburgh,
right?
And that area has come back. And with respect to the steel industry, the reason the steel industry went down so badly is because they didn't reinvest, they didn't modernize, they didn't do the things that they needed to do. They thought they were going to be protected by the government, and they got a rude awakening. That was not going to be the case in the auto industry. There was a very different time and a very different, very different set of scenarios that were unlike what happened to steel.
So, Rick, Super Tuesday is obviously next Tuesday. And you are going in with some real momentum. Romney is now beating in a new poll. Romney is beating Obama. Paul is beating Obama. I think you are missing him by 1 point. I mean, it's all very, very tight. Anybody who says, these guys can't beat Obama, I think we're seeing that you guys, all three of you guys, could beat Barack Obama.
It definitely looks that way. I mean, this is an interesting thing because you look at one poll, Senator Santorum beats Obama in swing states 50-45. It's a bigger lead than Mitt Romney has. And there's a great piece of analysis that talks about how the states that really matter, there's 95 electoral votes: Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Missouri, Minnesota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, that determine the winners of these presidential elections. If you can win 6 or 7 of those, you're all but guaranteed the presidency. Senator, how do you address those states in particular better than either Romney or Obama can? How can you make the case to those voters with staying with your principles that you're the guy to lead the country?
Well, we've already, at least in the Republican primary, won 3 of those states, and we're competing here in Michigan, I think, very, very aggressively as well. And we're here in Ohio today, and we're doing exceptionally well there. We're 29 points ahead in Pennsylvania, which is my home state, and we're doing, as I said, exceptionally well. We have a message of economic opportunity for everybody, and we put forth an aggressive tax plan. Unlike Governor Romney, we cut the corporate rate in half. He sort of tinkers with it. We make it a flat tax, a simple tax. Everything's expensed. Just a very simple single rate and net profits tax, basically, which means the little guy and the big guy are going to pay the same rate. And then for manufacturers, we say we got to compete against China, we got to compete against Mexico. So we're going to create a playing field that we can do that. Right now, we're at a 20% cost disadvantage because of government taxation and regulation. And we eliminate the corporate tax for manufacturing activity and level the playing field with China. And we do the same thing on a regulatory side. We're very aggressive in getting rid of high-cost regulations. And then finally, if you invest money that you've made overseas back here in this country, instead of paying a 35% tax, there's $1.7 trillion sitting overseas in banks because people won't pay that tax and bring it back. If you invest it in plant and equipment here in America, you don't have to pay a tax on it. So we're creating all sorts of incentives to reinvest in making things, not just to employ blue-collar workers and have the opportunity for everybody to succeed, but as you mentioned before, Glenn, making things here is a national security issue as much as it is for economic purposes.
Well, that's all great, Rick, but why do you hate women, and why do you want to move the U.S. Capitol to Rome?
My wife is Yeah, my wife is sitting next to me. She's going to be very upset. I don't know if you saw that our numbers with women are actually going up.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
We were just talking.
We were
off,
just talking about that
off the air.
This idea that there's a monolith, that all women are pro-choice or all women. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It is.
The bottom line is, I've gone out there, and if you look at my mom, who was a professional woman who made more money than my dad in the 50s and 60s, believe it or not. I grew up in that kind of home. I respect people's, everybody's right to go out and work hard and make it for themselves and their families. I've said outrageous things that I think parents should spend time with their children.
Oh my God!
Oh, good golly!
Sorry.
Oh,
all right,
my!
crazy.
Oh my!
Yeah, I know that's right wing crazy stuff. But my wife is a nurse. She is a lawyer. She's an author. When she wrote her 2 books, when I was in the United States Senate, I took time off. I stayed at home while she was out doing her book tour. I mean, that's how moms and dads work together. They do it every day.
She has my vote faster than you do. But
I know.
Tell me about gas prices.
By the way, she likes you more than I like you, too. That's clear here.
Tell me about gas. Well, then I don't know why we're dealing with a middleman here. Tell me about gas.
She's right next to you, right here.
Tell me about gas prices. What are you going to do about gas prices?
Number one, we're going to build the Keystone Pipeline. I was in Tioga, North Dakota, and they're getting charged they're getting $32 less per barrel for their light sweet crude, which is a high valued product, than the market price. Why? Because there's no pipeline to get that oil that's being produced in North Dakota to market, and the president's denying them that opportunity by building the Keystone Pipeline. There could be all sorts of huge investment in the Bakken in North Dakota, but they're afraid. But investors are afraid to go up there and actually build out that area because they're afraid of what the government's going to do to them.
Right.
They're afraid the pipeline won't be built. They're afraid that hydraulic fracking, the EPA is going to come in and shut it down. And so we have all of this uncertainty because we have a hostile administration toward energy production. They see oil and gas and coal as liabilities, things that they want to keep in the ground as opposed to things that are going to improve the quality of life and the standard of living for people here in America. We're going to change that. We're going to open up offshore. We're going to open up federal lands that have been locked up by executive order under this president. We're going to make the case to the American public, which is untrue, which is if we don't start opening up Alaska, the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge, which is an Arctic plain. I mean, it's frozen over 10 months out of the year. It's a tundra. If we don't open that up, we're going to lose all Alaskan oil production because there's not going to be enough from the depleting fields of oil on the North Slope to keep the pipeline flowing. That's 500,000 barrels a day. It's going to get worse, not better, and we have to have a president who's going to go out and make the case that we need to have energy jobs and energy security in this country.
All right, one other question. You gave me a sweater vest last time I saw you.
You wearing it?
No, I'm not wearing it.
No,
but I saved it just in case you become president. I left it in the bag. I'm like, this would be a keepsake. Someday I'll say, hey.
And maybe I'll sign it for you.
The president. No, don't do me any favors, Rick. And, but I left it in the bag in case I need to throw it away in case you could.
Sure.
But anyway, what I was thinking is, have you thought about.
At least put it in some sort of, place for people who don't have any clothes to wear.
Nope, I'm going to throw it away. Anyway, listen, here's the thing. Even homeless people don't want sweater vests. But here's what I was thinking.
Now you're hurting me, man. That hurt.
Here's what I'm thinking.
It was harsh.
Have you thought about, because sometimes some people can make it cool. And I'm not saying you're one of those guys. You might be, you might not be. We'll have to judge. Have you thought about nerding it up some and just being like, you know what, I'm a total nerd and I wear a sweater vest. Or maybe that's what you're doing with giving away the sweater vest. But, you might actually be able to nerd it up.
Go geek chic?
Yeah, go geek chic. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about that?
Chic.
Geek chic.
I sort of mentioned the Richie Cunningham line when I was on Meet the Press the other day. And, the sweater vest was, it's actually a very functional piece of clothing. And it's sort of what I am. It's sort of a functional.
For what? For people who are half hot?
Yeah,
I am so cold, but only in the core. My extremities are boiling hot. That doesn't even make sense.
It's all about keeping the core healthy. Yeah. It's all about keeping the core healthy.
All right. Rick, best of luck to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right. Bye-bye. Rick Santorum, who it could change everything today.
Yeah.
Everything could
He
change.
wins Michigan,
And if he loses it, it's a big deal too. I mean, really, this is a big race. I mean, I think either way, it makes a big statement.
I kind of agree with him, though. He's already sort of won a moral victory by being as close as he is. I mean, if this thing is really close in Romney's home state.
Yeah, if it's 10 points, it's not.
Then it's not. Then Romney's got the momentum back. But if not, it's,
This is an amazing race between the two of them.
Really is.
What I want out of a president, and we just heard it, was a guy who has the balls to say the word coal in a positive sentence.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yes,
he
he did.
recognizes that it's important to us. That's hard to say. If you're going to come out and I understand he's from Pennsylvania, but to come out and talk about things like that, our energy sources, and talk about them in a positive way that we're going to go explore all of them. That's
do you know
important.
what unemployment is in North Dakota, where they're drilling for the soil?
I think it's 3%.
Yeah, it's like 3.1%. It's the lowest unemployment in the country
by far.
And people will say, "Oh, well, gee, that's because it's North Dakota." No. Try to get an apartment. I mean, apartment rents in that area are skyrocketing because there's jobs.
Yeah, I'm trying to really hard right
jobs.
now to get a place in Bismarck. I just can't
do
done.
it.
That's why I'm not there. Otherwise, I'd be
You'd be there.
Oh,
yeah.
Who
It's
doesn't want to
beautiful.
live
this time of year
in Bismarck? Oh, yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
as it begins to warm up into the low 12
But
belows.
if you have a sweater vest, you're perfect.
Yes.
You'll be like,
then
my
it's-
core is freezing. My extremities
are hot.
boiling.
Good thing I don't have anything covering my arms.
A sweater vest is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Anyway.